Tech Time 360. All right. So just a very brief intro to the Samsung 360 gear, which we've got in the media store. There's a couple of other cameras as well, and they've been a different video. So one of the functions that is quite nice is that you can sync the Insta360 with your iPhone and of course Android as well. So once you've downloaded the app, you just need to connect through the camera through Wi-Fi. So very straightforward. You launch the application and it will ask you, it will tell you what to do to get connected. And then you go to your Wi-Fi. You choose Gear 360. Alright, and now you can use your 360, you can now. Alright, and now you can use your iPhone or your Android device to preview where your 360 recording is happening. So one thing to note, I think it's always quite good to think about where you place your camera. If you want to remove the tripod at some later stage, for instance using Mocha in Premiere and After Effects, you might not want to be in such a messy background as my desk is. So I would prefer to maybe clean this desk a bit up, just have a white sheet of paper, because then you can magically remove the tripod in the camera if it's an even surface. Very straightforward. Following this tech time, there will also be a bit of a intro into thinking about how we conceptualize 360, how do we stage for it, and how do we edit it. Okay, so let's jump back to the desktop to show you how I get the files from the camera. I can see there's a cut of the iPhone into Premiere. Alright, so there's a couple of different options how you can get your 360 videos from the camera into Premiere Pro. So you can either sync it from the camera to your smartphone and then from the smartphone to the Mac using image capture. You can use the USB cable, right? Or I think it's quite nice to just use the memory card. So camera on the side, that's where the card is. Can be a bit fiddly to open it, but you know, just use a little clip or something and you get there. But of course, being very precious to these cameras, that just goes into the Mac. And I always like to keep a folder as a backup of the video unstitched, and then the stitched video, and then having our assets folder. You know, really good file structure as always, and then we take it into Premiere. So let's just do that. So why do we have to do this? Because the camera records with the two lenses, so there's a sort of stereoscopic view. I'll show that to you in a second. And Premiere doesn't really like that, I think, so we want to change it to a monoscopic view, which is the 360 stretched out. And we can do that with Gear 360. Very straightforward, just run out for you in the background. So let's do that and then take it into Premiere. Alright, so once you inserted your memory card into your Mac, you can get the files from your memory card DCIM folder, and you just select these, copy paste, and put them into a new folder. So I've created the one here for Samsung camera. The difference between a stitched and an unstitched file is, if you look at that, so let's have a look. I think VLC will play that for us. You can see here the two lenses, record that, but Premiere won't be able to stitch that together. So we take it into Gear 360, and after the render has been done in the background, monoscopic view, which Premiere understands. So all you need to do for that is in the Gear 360, just go to the player, and in the player you choose a file to import. This import will happen in the background. And now we want to go to your Documents folder, Cyberlink, Gear 360, and there will be the file, sorry, 0.3 that you just converted. So I would just copy and paste that file into my folder, so I keep a good overview of my original ones and my stitched ones. Okay, let's take this to Premiere now. As always, make sure it's a good file structure. So I've set this up here on my external hard drive, and we're going to Premiere. Let's choose this folder, new project, and we browse there. Let me just do this for a sec. Choose this and make sure everything will save to there, and give this our name. Alright, so our usual interface in Premiere, and what we can do is we start importing our files. And of course we want to make sure that our files are all in the same folder, so not ending up somewhere else. So what I just need to do is make sure I copy and paste my files into the same folder. So as always, we want to make sure that Premiere and the files all in one folder. Okay, awesome. Here we go. So now we can start to import. Right click, import our videos, and see that is a view in monoscopic, and here we are. So all I just need to do is drag and drop this onto the sequence, and I have installed here a Gopro VR Player. I hope you have installed this in the lab too. I've asked my friends from ITS, and we'll see if they've done it. The nice thing about the Gopro VR Player is that you can immediately get an idea of what is going on right in the 360 space in a bit of a bigger view. So I've got a dual screen split up. I have a dual screen set up here, so I just move this to my second screen and we can focus on the Premiere interface. You can also use the toggle VR display. If you don't have this, you just need to press the plus sign and use the toggle VR display and add this to the buttons below, and that should do that for us. If not, you just right click in VR video. Okay, so we have been told that the sequence is 360. Not to worry, no stress. All we need to do is we go to our sequence. So remember, these are the clips and the media and the sequence, and we go to our settings, and Premiere automatically understands the dimensions of the video, but we haven't told it yet that it is actually a VR project. So, and these were the different things that we had before, but we have created a monoscopic one. So let's just make sure we select this and click OK. And now, if you press this button, we have managed to go to our 360 view. So of course this window is a bit small, but that's why I like to use the Gopro VR Player. If you want to install this on your personal computer Premiere, it's a free version. There's also the MATLAB player, which I hope will get installed quite soon, which is also a free one. But I'm not sure if ITS will do this at this stage, because MATLAB just become part of Adobe, and so we'll get this soon. Okay, so here are our videos. So I can work with this in a normal way, select the elements that I would like to have. Okay, I just have to wait for a second here for our clip to show up. There we are, and so let's say I only want the bit towards the end where I'm not walking through the screen. Select in, out point, and we can drag and drop this onto our timeline. So I think I have to allocate a few more RAMs to my Premiere. My system is a bit slow with the video recording running there in the background, but see, that worked fine here. So if we are in Premiere and you've got a project with some actual clips that I recorded on a couple of different cameras in an environment that I thought would be great for 360 cinematic VR. Okay, and you can work with a project very much in the same way that you can work in Premiere. One thing to remember is that, of course, the videos, again, right click, VR video, enable. We go to 360 view. If you apply effects to these videos, Premiere might think that you're working with a standard video. So what we have to do for this is, in our effects, is there's one VR effect now, which is called VR projection. And if you apply this to the clip, drag and drop, effect control, what we can do is we can change the positioning, the way where we look at the video. Because if you would change it otherwise, it would change all other videos. It would affect not only on this video, but also, of course, on the following videos in different dimensions. So with this one, we can change the positioning of the video. So if the camera wasn't set up properly, you can change this to the position where you think it is right for you. But of course that won't have an effect on the next video. If you change these parameters, it would alter to a different position. So, but I was happy with that. So let's just select, go back. The other effects I was talking about is the ones from MATLAB, which I hope ITS will install. If not, you can install them for free. You just need to email Adobe and they will send you a download link. I can give you the link for that as well. So, and it's a blur effect, which means it allows you to blur the entire image and not just under Premiere, understanding that it is a standard video, but actually something that is stitched, so you wouldn't have a line coming up on both sides. The denoise effect, glow effect, and a project for 2D, which is quite useful for titles, because if you create a title, it might otherwise be quite stretched. So, I'll show this to you in a second. And rotate sphere effect, which is very similar to the effect that Premiere has built in, and the sharpen effect. So what is going on here with my text? What I have created is a bit of a nesting. So just a normal text sequence, in a new sequence, imported a text file into that, and if you go back to your clip, you will see I have applied here, as per text on Blackboard, in your progression review chart, there's this link from Vimeo. File export media, here the export settings, H.264, and the important thing is that we use in here video match source. So let me show that to you. H.264, and then in video match source. This will make sure that the settings that you have in your sequence will also be exported in the same settings. If you change the settings in Premiere, especially for 360 videos around, they might not stitch properly, so that's the best way to double check. The other option, which is quite nice, is to ensure we get a good quality video, is to change this to 2, and according to Vimeo guidelines, we want to make sure that we are at least in the 10 to 20. Right, so the files will get a bit bigger, but that should be fine. Target bitrate between 10 and 20. Audio, AAC, right? Want to make sure it's a non-compressed file format. And in the multiplexer tab, we can make sure that we are in MP4. And of course, in video, we just want to cross-check that we have hit VR video is enabled. And we press export, and that will render it out. In Vimeo, you just need to go to upload and drag and drop your video there. Vimeo automatically understands that you're working in a 360 environment. I'll tell it you there. If it doesn't tell you 360 there, and you're sure you exported it as 360, you go to your settings in video file and make sure that this video is ticked. And remember, in Premiere we always work with monoscopic. That should be everything to get a 360 video online. So in the Gopro VR Player, we can see here that I removed the tripod. So let me just show this to you. If we go to another video file, right, similar. So let me show you how this would look if I would turn this off. Right, you can see my tripod. appearing there. Similar on this one. So, in Premiere, we can see my tripod pretty visible here. Okay, let's move that back to 0 and 0, because otherwise we mess up the whole positioning. Too much in your face, so to say, but could look a bit odd because it looks like someone just forgot a tripod there in that scene. And if you look around, there isn't too much information on the floor, so I think you only really start looking into this area because you notice a tripod. I guess I was a bit in a rush when I placed the tripod there, because I might have placed it just slightly away from the beautiful green flower there. Might have been a bit easier to work with that, but it is what it is. So what can we do? You get a couple of options. You could key it out in Premiere with a mask, but that might look quite patchy. So the proper way to do this is to use a plugin like Mocha. There's a couple of different things how you can work with Mocha. It's quite complex, but I like to keep things quite easy and straightforward. So I'll just show you one option, which is to paint over the tripod by using the environment that's around it. So you can't really do this in Premiere, but what you can do is you can replace this with an After Effects composition, and After Effects does it all for you in a way with Mocha. So Mocha is not installed on all After Effects computers, but in one machine, and of course I'll be able to let you know where it is once it's set up. So, okay, just ignore this for a sec. What we want to make sure though is that we save this into the same folder where our Premiere file is. Okay, here we are. So, interface is pretty much straightforward. Get the effects on the right side. This is similar to our timeline. And one thing we need to do is we just need to copy and paste. We get 2 of them. So, in our effects, we can find Mocha. Now we go for Mocha VR, drag and drop this in here. And what we need to do is we need to check that we are in undistort, and we need to press the render tick box. Once you've done that, we can go to our latitude and longitude information and get into the 360 environment. Okay, so I think the key thing is to place it in a way that it's a bit of information around it, that we can just use our clone stem tool, select an area around it, and just paint over it. The idea is we want to use not too much from the same area, otherwise it would become a bit too repetitive, but just working along the different ways. So, select our clone stem tool, and we always want to make sure before that we are in our layer. So you can just double click on the timeline, get our clone stem tool, you can choose different brushes. At the beginning, you can choose something a bit bigger, around 300, that's quite nice. You can press Command minus, you zoom out, Command plus, and you zoom in, and you press the space bar and we can move around. Okay, so in the beginning it can be quite alright to just use something that's a bit bigger, and then we can fine tune later on. So if you're working from that space, let's maybe take something here. So you press Alt, that defines our path. And now we can start to paint this out. We do a bit from down here. I think that was good to use it from different sides so it doesn't become too repetitive. So you can get a bit bigger again. Making sure that's a bit too big now. Making sure that this seems to work too. Okay, that's probably a bit more from here. Take a bit from here. Oops, didn't want to have that. Let me grab something from down here. I get a bit from there. A bit more uneven. Okay, so not too bad. What we need to do now is we need to select Mocha VR and press Command Copy, and we then, I'll just check here, get everything in place. Need to go to Layer and go to Pre-Composite. Select the second option, press OK, and now we need to press Command V and paste our Mocha effect. So there's the tripod, it's gone. One thing to do is to make sure we go to Lens and go to Distort, and that means our tripod is removed. Go back to Premiere and the tripod is gone. So this little selection is unrendered, so you can select that and go Sequence, Render Selection. One thing to do might be, rather than doing it individually, is to render all your different files all in one go. So good idea is to do this over the night maybe. So even if I render for 8 different clips, 6 minutes video, there's a 2 hours, 3 hours. If you do it overnight, it doesn't really matter how long it is. Okay, so just let this render. We talked about interactive filmmaking, and of course you could make a 360 environment, also interactive cinematic VR, 360 interactive VR cinematic. How do we go about this? Pretty straightforward if you're using WondaVR. So let's launch into this. And I thought, before showing you how we start this from scratch, there's some great resources available on the WondaVR site. Documentation gives you a nice introduction, a couple of videos and some guides. I would start with a project so you can see what you can do with it. So, and this is very much a similar version that you've seen before. So I've created like a bit of a mini menu. You get the choice between 2 ways to go. It tells you a bit about navigation. And here are the credits. So what I have done is I have created a hotspot on the video in this area, and I've given it 10 seconds before it becomes active. So if you would be wearing your Google Cardboard, you would see a reticle coming up and getting bigger, like a circle. WondaVR is quite nice because it gives you a storyboard structure, and you import all your videos into the video bin. You can also import audio, of course, but just on this note, we want to make sure that we stay with the 360 video compression guidelines that we have. So before we do anything in WondaVR, if you want to make it interactive, you would export every clip individually, as we can see here in our assets folder, according to the bitrate. So if you look here at the megabits per second, they're pretty small, right? Because they might go online, or you can preview it on the phone natively. If you preview it on the phone natively, it's very fast. If it's online and the file's getting too big, it gets a bit slower, obviously. That's a very standard thing in the web. So what we have done is we have looked into, most likely I will look in this on an iPhone. So if you want to make sure that you can even work with an iPhone 5S, or if you know that you got an iPhone 6S, you choose the resolution, whichever ratio you're working with. So normally 16:9, right? So 1920 times 1080. If you keep it smaller, you're safe. If you go bigger, you might exclude a few people. But of course, if it's smaller, you can always, go for a higher one. And here is a key thing: you want to make sure that you don't go higher than the bit rates, because that's what makes the files really bigger in the size. The video might be a bit more compressed, but remember, you're looking on a very small device, so it should be fine. H.264 and maximum frame rate 30 frames per second. So again, Android, Samsung Gear, Cardboard, that's where we at. Alright, so once you've done all your videos, and all you need to do is just drag and drop them into this folder right there. I don't want to duplicate things now. I can show it to you in a second. All the videos pop up here. And then you just need to drag and drop them onto your timeline, or onto your storyboard rather. And you then can create some connections from the videos. So once you've imported your videos, you can drag and drop them onto your storyboard, and you can zoom in, and you make these connections through hotspots. So the hotspots would allow, if you double click on the video, on this index file, it will pops you to where you can see what happens to the video. You can see here the duration. This marker indicates that it's 25 seconds. You can select the hotspot, transparent, pop this onto an area that will create the reticle for you, or it will create the mouse over, depending where you're at. So if you go back to the storyboard, and so we are now in basement, and you want to go to view, you select this one, in your hotspot properties, you go to link, and select view. So if you go back to our storyboard, you can see that we created that link in the hotspot. So you can preview this, in WondaVR. Of course, there's nothing much happening here. Or we can preview this in our always Firefox for WondaVR browser. Only one hotspot here, which takes us to the view. Right. If you want to change the duration of the hotspot, you can make this per second, so it only becomes available at a certain time. So it is a very straightforward way to work. I can show you as well what I did in the main menu. Is you can develop some navigational elements. So you can create a link onto a text, as you can see here. There's a couple of great videos on the documentation side, like I showed you before. But just very briefly, what we do then is we've got the general tab. You can add some information about the project. There's the design tab. You can change the font. And this is where we publish the project. So once you're happy with the working version, you can review it. And from the review, you go to the review stage. Here you can download a QR code, so that means you can share it with multiple people, and you also can share the link, and that way people can have access to this. You can then preview this locally on the device, or of course online. Alright, so that was just a quick fire intro to WondaVR. Remember, here's all the resources that I just mentioned. The publication for iTunes, so see, pretty good resource on the website. So I don't think I have to double up and do another one about this, but of course we will use our workshop time should there be any questions coming up. Okay, alright, thanks heaps.